You're listening to Faces of Atlantic, a series hosted by Terri-Ann that gets real with the leaders, changemakers, and everyday doers shaping Atlantic Canada. Each conversation dives beyond titles to uncover the grit, growth, and human stories behind the work.
This is Faces of Atlantic, where we go beyond titles and talk about the real human side of leadership. I'm Terri-Ann, and today I'm sitting down with James to uncover the story behind him as a leader. Hey, James.
Hey, Terri-Ann, how are you?
I'm pretty darn good. All right, so before we go down the rabbit hole and learn all about you and the things that you do and some of your leadership lessons, when I strip away all the titles, everything I can Google about or look up on LinkedIn, who are you really? Like, who are you behind the titles and the strategy and the success? Who are you?
Interesting question. I would say, obviously, I'm a husband and a father of two. I have an 18-year-old daughter who just started university. I have a 20-year-old trans son. We have spent a lot of years in the US before coming to the East Coast. Thankfully, got out when we did, and we're thrilled to be on the East Coast. We had never been here. We're from Ontario originally, and Halifax is beautiful, and the whole East Coast is fantastic. But it's, just me as a person. I'm active, kind, and empathetic, and obviously, just love meeting new people.
Yes. Yeah. So youngest is going off to school. Is that in September, or are they already in it right now?
They started. They're about a mile down the road in
Oh,
residence.
that's not too far.
Yeah.
I like that. My son's in Fredericton, which, I mean, like, let's be clear. It's like an hour and 10-minute drive. It's not that far, Terri-Ann. But I find it like it's not fun that like I don't get to see his little dimples, like when he comes up and he gets his big glass of milk in the morning, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not here.
Yeah.
So what a fun world to be to the point where our kids are all going off to school and becoming like little mini adults. It's cool.
I know, it's bizarre.
It is so bizarre. All right. So let's zone back into what I can find about you on LinkedIn and tell the folks listening what you do for a day to day. I know you've got a couple hats that you wear. So like talk us through what your role is, what brought you to that. And yeah, just share some of your story there.
So professionally, I'm a professional accountant. I've got my designation back in the 1900s, as my kids say. So about 30 years ago. Had several senior financial roles, and that's what took me down to the US originally in 2011. And then a couple of restructures and found myself in a small market, not much unlike, the East Coast being a small market. And we didn't want to leave. We were on the ocean and in Charleston, South Carolina. So we wanted to stay. And so I kind of pivoted and moved into fractional CFO consulting, where I was working for myself. My wife's big concern was stability, but I had just proven in 2 years with 2 full-time roles, just over 2 years, I was restructured out of 2 of them. So there really wasn't stability in the full-time role that, kind of everyone has this belief that there is. So yeah, I pivoted, went into that about 8 years ago. I still do that today here. I have a lot of clients still in the US as I'm trying to build my community and network here on the East Coast and back in Canada.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's a great, the variety, the flexibility, and kind of working for yourself, and wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you think about like making that switch from, and obviously not stable because, that happened,
Right.
and then moving into being a fractional CFO for a variety of clients, what was the biggest change, sort of like it's like the resistance, like that feels a little different. What did that change do to your system? Like, what did that feel like moving through that?
Initially, there's a challenge there because, being organized, I've got 6 clients right now. And so I'm not working kind of full days for any of them. They're all part days and different things. And, I'll get calls from clients on kind of off days, if you will. And it's just really about being organized, being present. And, the thing in the fractional world is if they've gone this route, some of them are worried that they don't have access to you all the time. And so that's one of the things that I've tried to ensure is that I am available, any day. If I'm working with you and another client calls, then I'll take the call and see what's up. But I think it's just being present and available so that they feel like they have all of me instead of just a fraction of me.
What size organization typically requires A fractional CFO.
Is typically small to mid-sized businesses. And it's from, I guess, a couple of angles. One, they're not ready for a full-time, so they don't
Yep.
have enough capacity for full-time, or they just can't afford it. They're growing and they need that expertise, but they just can't, they can't justify spending, a CFO salary
Fair
on a
game.
full-time person.
Yeah, fair game. Is there a specific industry that you find yourself working in most, or are you sort of able to work in just about any of them?
It's pretty agnostic. I've got a lot of construction background.
Cool.
So I've got a couple of clients in the construction industry now, and I like that. It's interesting, but I do love the variety and the flexibility. I've got a couple of nonprofits that I work with. I've got someone in the financial services industry. I've got a short-term vacation rental company.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's
That
across
that
the
is a
board.
cool that is a cool variety. I like it. I like it. So talk to me about some of your other things that you do outside of your role and what brought you and obviously share what you want, but what
Mhm.
brought you to taking those on, adding that to your plate? What does that look like on a monthly basis for you in terms of, stretching your capacity?
Sure. Yeah, I've always been involved either in nonprofits or charities or volunteer boards or just volunteering my time. Just throughout the years, different things, some children's cancer organizations, and that's just to me, it's important to give something back, and it doesn't always have to be about money. It can be time and effort, and so that's always been really important for me. And then, when I was restructured out in Dallas, I really hadn't done any networking. I'd been there 4 years. We had a 3 and 5 year old when we moved there. We were
Wow.
outside of Dallas. I was working even further away from Dallas. So I just never did any networking. And I thought I was on LinkedIn and I was networking. And then I found myself on the street and I didn't know anybody in Dallas.
Yeah.
And so I quickly learned the value of networking. And I've been doing that pretty aggressively and proactive. I love meeting new people, so it's not like it was uncomfortable for me. It was just maybe not realizing what I should have been doing.
Hmm.
So you can teach an old dog new tricks. So I've hit the ground running, and before I moved up here, I started networking on LinkedIn and finding fellow fractional CFOs. One of the events that I think you're familiar with, Disrupt HR, I
Yeah.
had been going to those events in Charleston, South Carolina for 5 or 6 years. I knew the organizers, the recruiting firm. Knew all of them. So I was very familiar, but I never helped organize it. So when I was coming up here, I checked and I saw that there was one in Halifax. I reached out to the organizers and said, I'm coming in 6 months. And if I can be of help, I'd love, I've been around it. I know the format. I know everything about it. I'd be happy to help. And two of them left. And so the third one, Audra was like, okay, are you in? I need
I
somebody.
love it.
So yeah, so it's been great.
Yeah. Disrupt HR, they're great actual events for both like microdosing in learning and then to your point, networking with folks that are kind of all like rowing their boat in a similar direction. Like you can tell they're the type of people who are wanting to, absorb new knowledge, shift perspectives, typically professionals that are in the sphere of who you'd want to be connected with. And yeah, so I agree. I think Disrupt HR events are, well, they're just a heck of a lot of fun too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's not just HR folks. You get a lot of business leaders. And
100%.
I mean, I'm a CFO and people always assume I'm in HR and then they find out that I'm a bean counter and they're like, why are you at this event?
Because
But
it's
it's just a
fun.
great cross section of people.
Yeah, totally agree. So in your organization now as a fractional CFO, is it just you or do you have other team members or talk to me through that?
Yeah. So it started out with me. And then I guess 4 years ago, the kids were getting to an age where they didn't need us or need mom as much. And mom was trying to sue. My wife was trying to figure out what to do with her life now. She's a social worker when she left Canada. She started doing some bookkeeping for one of my clients. She's got an amazing
Nice.
attention to detail, and QuickBooks is pretty intuitive and easy to pick up.
Yep.
So she started doing that 4 years ago, and she still works with me now on several clients. So we kind of work together,
Oh, I love that.
but it's been great because it gives her some flexibility. She works from home. The dogs
Yeah.
are either on her lap or on the bed. A lot of people asked me initially, was I going to build a firm?
Yeah.
And the goal was really just, I wasn't out to build a firm. It was, I know what work I can do and I don't have to worry about managing
Yeah.
others. It just brings in a different level of not difficulty, but challenges, I guess, because you're not doing the work. And if a client's not happy with that work, then you're trying to bridge that gap. And so it can be difficult. I did have a couple of people that worked some clients for me. About 13 months after I started this, I was full. And within a span of 8 days, it was a January, 4 prospects that I had met with over the last 6 to 8 months all came back within 8 days and said, I'm ready.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to get these other two to do some work for 'em with me and my
Okay.
clients. And so, yeah, so it was good. But yeah, I think right now, just Sue and I, and it works
You
out
like it
great.
that way.
Yeah.
I like that. So let's start digging into like you as a human and some of the lessons you had to learn or unlearn, as it goes. When you think of just your breadth of experience traveling, down to the States, moving to Halifax, coming from Ontario, raising children, like all of this stuff,
Uh-huh.
has there been any pattern that you've had to unlearn or, pieces of advice that I think sometimes, well-intentioned individuals have taught us back in the day, and then we just kind of realize like that doesn't really fit in my world on a go forward basis.
Mhm.
Has there been anything that you've had to unlearn to become the human that you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that I have a 20-year-old trans son.
Yep.
And so when you're not in that world, like if you don't have somebody in your family or your friend network or, I don't think you truly understand it 100%, right?
100%.
It's just kind of, you've got you just live life the way, you think is
Well, it's
normal.
almost
And
more abstract when it's out there and it's not in your peripheral, in your immediate
yeah,
circle. 100%.
yeah. So, I mean, I've always been very open and accepting. And, as far as I'm concerned, people can live their life any way they want. It has no impact on me or anyone else. And, unfortunately, we came from a climate in the US that was not,
Mm,
like that. And that's kind of what started the talk to coming home is they didn't want to go to school in the US after high school, just
fair.
from a safety perspective.
Yep.
So that's really what started. And we realized, yeah, it was time to get out, time to come home. But that was probably the biggest one,
Yep.
and it's not to say I've got a wife and a daughter too. And in the US, their rights are being attacked as well.
100%.
So, it's unfortunate that, I was the only kind of safe one, um,
Mm,
safe from those lenses of
yeah.
discrimination and stuff like that.
Yeah. When you think back through that experience or sort of those moments, what do you feel is like the human skill you leaned on the most through those times? Obviously, when your child explained to you what they were experiencing, who they felt that they were, making decisions to again move family
Mhm.
to a new spot, well, completely new spot.
Yeah.
What are those human skills you felt like you leaned on the most?
I think really just love and kindness, and especially towards Penn, our trans son.
Hmm.
They needed they needed to know that we were 100% behind them, whatever they wanted to be or who they thought they were, who they became. None of that mattered. It just mattered that they were happy and knew that they had a comfortable home life. A lot of their friends don't have that. They don't have
Yeah.
that luxury. They're lucky if they have one parent that's accepting. And,
Mm.
so Penn had a good surrounding for them to kind of grow and become the person that they want to become.
Yeah. Isn't it wild though? Like, I mean, regardless of who you are, where you're from, like your background, what you're experiencing in like your today, support means everything,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Like having people who want to see you succeed, having people who've got your back when the world feels just a little bit more icky than it's supposed to is it can completely radically shift somebody's trajectory in life.
Yeah.
So, like, kudos to you and, your wife, your whole family for being able to do that because you're right. There's a heck of a lot of people in that situation or in completely different situations who just don't have that.
Mhm.
And the data's there. Like, it shows how much it affects their ability to be fulfilled, successful, their mental health, right? So,
Yeah.
support means everything. It's
Yeah.
huge.
It does. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, a lot of people will commend you or talk about how great it is that you're supportive and stuff like that. And it's kind of one of those backhanded compliments. It's like, of course. I mean, you shouldn't be any other way. This is your child.
Yeah.
So I'm going to love them, whoever they are.
Yeah.
And, so it's a little odd to hear that.
It does feel odd. I can see how that would feel odd, but the reality of it is so many, like, because in your brain, you're like, well, of course, that is what you do as a parent.
Yeah.
Like, you show up and you
Yeah.
you take care and you're supportive. But to your point earlier, not everybody does that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a gift. You've made some comments about, getting out and building a network and networking. What do you think is the main reason why people don't or halt that building up a network? And what is the thing you've learned? So I guess it's a two-part question. What is the thing you've learned in building this peripheral of humans around you in all spaces and places?
I think the biggest reason that I see when I'm out and, people talk about, they're uncomfortable. I think there's a lot of introverts out there that don't, that's not their comfort zone to be out and just strike up a conversation. They're just not comfortable with that. And I get
Yeah.
that. It's not for everybody. But the people that are getting out of their comfort zone and making an effort to do that, I think they're going to realize the value in it
Yeah.
because it's just so valuable. And for me, it's less about, you know, business as it is about just being a good human and meeting people and seeing how you can help them.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as long as somebody knows what I do, at some point they may come across somebody or themselves that need what I do
Yeah.
and they'll remember me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so people are like, well, I can't sell myself, or you're not really selling anything. You're always selling yourself. Every conversation, every interaction, you are selling yourself, but not selling it so that you can get some business out of it. Right? It's just every every person I meet, whether it's at a networking event or it's at the store or wherever, as soon as I start that conversation and we're talking, I'm immediately going to, who do I know that would
Mm.
be a good connection for them, whether they're looking for something or aren't looking for anything. Just who do they have in common with somebody that I know? I love to make some introductions and connect people. I just think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, you're actually really good at it. I think you've made like 4 or 5 connections with me just, in the short amount of time that I've known you, and some of them have paid dividends. So you're not just saying that, you actually do it,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So talk to me about, because I think that this is actually a really key topic, because I hear it a lot from people is like, how do you network? What do you do when you show up? Because there are a lot of introverts, and I don't even know if it's introverts or it's just people have gotten to a point, we could blame it on COVID. We could blame it on cell phones.
Mhm.
We could just, I don't know, just the shift in human nature that people just don't know how to do that. Like initial, like, what do you do? How many people do you talk to? What is the thing that you say to them?
Yeah.
Nice weather out there. Right. So
Right.
talk to me about like some of your tricks, if you have them, or tips that you could give to folks just going out and meeting complete strangers. Because when you go to events, people always like, oh, I know that one person. They all congregate together in the same bubble that they knew for the last 10
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about like, what would be some tips for folks?
Well, I love going to a networking event by myself
All right.
because just what you said, if you go with somebody or a few others, you tend to stick with that because that's your comfort zone.
Yep.
So when you go by yourself, you're immediately on your own. So you don't have that comfort zone. Sure, you do enough networking, you're running across the same people and it's familiar. But I'll leave events and I'll get a message from someone. Oh, I saw you there. Sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you. Well, that's okay because we've talked, we know each other. And, we're just kind of doing our own thing, meeting new people. So there's not so much trick other than just be genuine. I think
Mm,
it sounds pretty simple, and I think it is, but you get some people that are maybe just trying too hard, or it's really about selling and, do you need a new website? Do you need this?
yeah.
And
Well, and I think people overthink it too, right? Like and I think it's like that first line or that first question, whatever it is that comes out, people don't know what to say. I've actually often heard from folks that the events they've gone to where someone has like curated a list of questions that they can ask people has really like take the pressure off them.
Mm.
So, I kind of put that as a note to myself for some of the events that I do to maybe try that and survey folks afterwards to see if that helped, because it comes up so often as like, I've gone to the event, but I don't know anybody new still because I'm still just talking to the same people I know.
Yeah.
So I like that. Lesson number 1, folks, go by yourself. That sounds scary, just to
Yeah.
be honest. But
Yeah, it is.
yeah. But if you're trying to grow your network, if that's the goal,
Yeah.
then that's actually a great piece of advice. And then if you're not trying to grow your network, then just go with your peeps, and that's okay too.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I joined the chamber, so that's been good because they have a lot of events. A lot of them are free, so after hours events and
Yeah.
some great people. I guess the other thing is you're going thinking you're a unicorn, but everyone has the same goal. Everyone's going to that event hoping to meet some people and make some connections. So you're not alone. It's not like you're invading someone or bothering someone else. They're there with the same goal.
Yeah. It's not like you're walking up to somebody in a restaurant
Right.
who's trying to
Right.
have their dinner and you're like, hey, this
Yeah.
is who I am. And they're
Yeah.
like, not important right now, right?
Yeah.
You're actually going to a networking function where other folks are there for the same darn reason. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
So true. And it's funny because I run events, so I network, I guess, by osmosis in that space, but I actually have gotten away from just like good old school networking and,
Yeah.
doing the thing that you're talking about over the last 10 years. And I went somewheres last year and I did end up by myself and I don't know why. I was scared. And I think that's funny because I know anyone who knows me would be like, really, Terri? And
Yeah,
I was scared. I was
exactly.
like, what do I do? And I'm like, man, I used to do this all the time. Like, just go back on your instincts. Like, just walk up and have a conversation, figure out who they are. But I sat there for a little bit and I was like, I am in the corner drinking my little tiny glass of wine in a plastic cup.
Yeah, that does sound funny coming from you.
It does, I know. But I like to surprise people. I keep you
Yeah.
all on your toes, right?
Yeah, that's for
Can't
sure.
ever assume about people, right?
No, never.
What's a principle you try to live by, right? Even, and I guess I want to throw out, like, even if it's an unpopular or an inconvenient principle, like, what's something that you try to root yourself in on a regular basis?
I think it's probably some of the things that I've said already, like just being authentic and genuine and real. I think just people can relate to that. And so I
Mm,
like to use humor too. So at networking events, if I can find some way to, poke fun at myself or, say something about, oh, you've been standing at the bar all night, just something, just some icebreaker, but it's really just genuine, kind. Yeah. It's just be yourself.
just be yourself. So difficult. I actually read a quote that said, like, it's actually really difficult to be yourself because, like, there's so many reasons that we feel, right? Like, that we have to be something different based on, societal norms or something we were taught with. And so it's like great advice because I give it all the time and it's one of my core values, but it's also like uber hard for people to actually think like, but will people like the real me?
Right.
It's such a, especially if they've played a game of being something they're not for any length of time, to lean into just being their authentic self is like, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because at least when you're something else and people don't like it, it's like, man. But when you're 100% yourself and people don't like it, it's like, can't take any more layers off. That's me.
Yeah.
Shoot. Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, but at the end of the day, I think it's it takes the pressure off to just be you because you don't have to think about what's my next line. It's your next line. It's whatever comes out,
And
right?
not everyone's going to like you for
Nope.
whatever reason, and that's okay. And I think
Yeah.
you need to be okay with that because that's rejection or that's, whatever, and that someone could shut down. But I would say one of my all-time favorite quotes is look back and be grateful, look ahead and be hopeful, look around and be helpful. And I really try and live that.
I like that quote.
Yeah.
I like that quote a lot. Has there been anybody in your life that has made an impact on you as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a father, as a leader?
It's funny, you tend to learn more from your bad bosses, your bad leaders than the best ones. So I think, as I was going throughout my career, you kind of learn what not to do and you see what they're doing and what, how that maybe doesn't jive with the way you like to do things. And so it just helps solidify that. I don't know that there's any one individual. I was surrounded by an entrepreneurial community in Charleston when I started my business. And I loved it. Like, they've got their life on the line, a lot of these people with a product or a service. They didn't necessarily want to run a business. It's just that's what they're forced to do to make their dream, a reality. And I don't even feel like an entrepreneur. I just feel like I have had this skill set, this experience that now I just do it for myself, whereas the true entrepreneurs are the people that have this product or service and, they're going out and they've just got everything on the line for this opportunity. And I just love being surrounded by them, and
Mm.
they don't know everything about business. So being able to help and support them and, kind of be that right hand or, someone that can listen to them and, just help, not necessarily guide them, but just someone to talk to that you can bounce ideas off of. And so I like being that resource for anyone, really.
That's awesome. I would say you 100% are an entrepreneur. And I think you have the spirit that matters most to entrepreneurship, which is, forward thinking, impact driven. Even if your business is small, I always think of how do people show up for other people? And you certainly have that spirit of impact and giving and obviously getting out and connecting people and all of that. So I would check the box that, if that box was like in front of us, like we'll check it. Yes, you're an entrepreneur.
All right.
Talk to me about what you see as like, let's kind of go broad for a second and thinking about Atlantic Canada as a whole. Where do you see our biggest opportunities as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, as leaders? Because we're four provinces, we're four small provinces, but we're kind of mighty when you think of us as a
Hmm.
collective.
Yeah.
And you have, your a pulse on the entrepreneurial community, through your work through Disrupt HR and also through your work with, being a fractional CFO. So what do you see as our biggest opportunities?
Oddly enough, I think a lot of it has really happened in the last year, thanks to the US and kind of the administration, some of the things that are happening down there with the trades and the tariff. And, so I think the biggest opportunity is just knocking down some of the interprovincial trade barriers that we've got put up. And, you know, we do, we make every effort to buy local or buy East Coast or, if we have to, Canadian before all else. It's just, to me, that's how we're all going to succeed.
Mm,
And you've got all these people out there with great ideas, great products, great services, and go and support them. It's not about getting the best deal, it's about getting some product or service that you need or you want or you would like to support and help, someone step up and,
yeah.
prop them up to really make a go of their business.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important, and I think the more we connect, like, as leaders across the provinces of Atlantic Canada, the more you start realizing just, like, how cool we are, right? Like, that's kind of like one of the selfish reasons I get to do this Faces of Atlantic series is I get to talk to people who are just doing real like, you just don't know. If you stay in your own four walls and you do the thing that you do and you do it well, and you don't talk to other people and
Mhm.
talk to them about their dreams and their aspirations and the impact they're making, you just don't know. And I think sometimes you can kind of get stuck into the space of thinking like everything is external of Atlantic Canada, like to get the good stuff.
Mhm.
But there's so much good stuff that's
There is.
happening right here. And I'm shocked sometimes that like these organizations are, built and bred like right here doing amazing things. And, some of them with large teams so that, they're employing families. And yeah, so I think that there's a lot to be said about supporting local and getting to know the folks that are doing cool things in Atlantic Canada because to your point you can also share that news and be like, hey, James, I just heard from so and so, they'd be great, as a client for you as a,
Yeah.
fractional CFO or so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that one for sure.
Yeah, so I think it's an offshoot. Like, we didn't necessarily start it, even though we may have thought it.
Yeah,
And, you just get pushed into it, and it's the greatest thing ever. Like,
yeah.
things could normalize again in the US, but I don't think a lot of our thinking will change back to, oh, the US is open again.
No, I think there's almost like a it's kinda like small town feeling all of a sudden, like, it's like we're
yeah,
now like, we're a community, and if we don't take care of each other, there will be no other. in our peripherals. And so let's do
Exactly.
the thing. And also once you realize you don't need the externals and you can do a lot here, it takes the pressure off as well. Cause it's like, oh, I don't actually have to buy all the way from there. I can
Yeah.
literally get it down the street. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
huge. Something I've noticed in working with a lot of leaders and teams and entrepreneurs is, there's a lot of folks that are, I won't use the word burnout, but they're feeling the pressure. There's been a lot of change over the last, 5-10 years in business, in politics. There's a lot of shifts in the way that people are having to lead and manage teams. And so I'm witnessing a lot of people feel a lot of stress
Mhm.
and, burning out or just kind of in the spark, if you will. I want to talk to you about some of your go-to, you know, I'll call them coping mechanisms or stress resets or recalibrators. Like what is some things that you do on a day-to-day or weekly basis to help kind of, because sometimes it doesn't even have to be our own. It's just like, we just talked about the states. That in and of itself can just be stressful to witness, right? So what are some things that you do on a regular basis to help you manage all the externals that you don't control?
Yeah, that's a great question. We all face it. And I think, with our phones, that's the biggest culprit. So I'm not great at, getting away from the phone, but I won't I won't necessarily call it doom scrolling. Like there's
Mhm.
only so much I want to read or hear about, the latest of what's going on. We want to keep a pulse on it and kind of know what's going on. But really the reset is really stepping away intentionally to take the dogs to the park or go for a walk on the boardwalk or just to get away from your office. And that's the one of the dangers of working from home is that you don't kind of show up and then leave and you can leave it all behind. It's always sitting there and you're like, oh, I forgot to send that email today. So you'll go up and do something and an hour later, you know, you've been away from the family for an hour. And it's not a necessarily bad thing because that flexibility allows you to do something in the middle of the day and knowing that you can just, work after dinner and finish what you needed to. So it's not entirely a bad thing, but the mental the mental stress on people is definitely very high these
Yeah,
days, whether it's from expectations or, never shutting off because, you're at your phone all the time. But yeah, I just think reset is probably the best way to put it. And it's not, I haven't been on a vacation in 6 months. I need to take a vacation. That's the ultimate reset. But you kind of need that daily. You know,
I
what's
agree.
what's your reset daily?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, there's some data out there that says, like a 15-minute brisk walk, 7.5 one way, 7.5 the other way, helps to release hope molecules. I mean, that's not a scientific term,
Yeah.
but basically like all the good, happy juju hormones that help your body, help to reduce cortisol and just kind of
Mhm.
improve mood and yeah, reset, take a break, right? Because
Mm.
we are kind of all consumed,
Yeah.
right? If you
Hmm.
when you think about it, that wasn't the way before,
No.
and that is certainly the way it is now, and yes, it's the norm, so it's hard to sometimes, like, notice it as being something that can affect you, but it's just not sustainable, right? To be
Yeah.
wrapped in anything for too long is not sustainable, so, yeah, I appreciate that comment, I think that's super smart.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I don't have time to do that." Well, we spend more than 15 to 30 minutes on our phone at a time scrolling, so, a 15 to 30-minute walk is not a
No.
lot. Mm.
Yeah, well, I always call BS on that one because what do they say? 15 minutes of wasted time a day is 12 8-hour workdays a year. So there's your vacation, folks.
Yeah.
15 minutes of you not doom scrolling or whatever it is. You
Yeah.
get your vacation each year. And for the most part, anyone I've talked to, it's way longer than that. Like we all have
Yeah.
those little things at the end of the week that says how long you've
Yeah.
spent time on your phone. And sometimes it's embarrassing and it's not stuff you would post on social media. I
Yeah.
get it. However, we're all the boss of ourselves. So you get to make decisions and not
Yeah.
give yourself outs because I think stress release, resetting, recalibrating, super important. And I think it matters for the long game, right? Like for the most part, I think people listening and tuning into this are what I would consider, high impact, ambitious folks who are wanting to do the good things, the great things, and still be around in the future. And I think the only way that matters, or the only way that can happen is if you do the resets and you know,
Yeah.
treat your body like a vehicle. It needs a tune-up. It needs some more fuel, all
Yeah.
that great stuff, right?
And
Yeah.
focus on the positive energy.
Yes.
You know, some people get so wrapped up in what other people are saying or doing on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't like something I read or see, I move on, I block, I unfollow, whatever, and I just move on with my day. I don't have time to get into a battle of, text with somebody. You never win.
But isn't it fun to watch? I sometimes show up just to read the comments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, people like, I guess they could say the same about me. Like, I have a lot of time on my hands to be reading them all. I don't make a comment, but I just watch it and I'm like, people are really passionate about
Yeah.
this topic.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of like differing views. So I'm there for the comments when I
Yeah.
really need a good laugh.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what you post. You could think there's not anything someone could say negative about this
Yeah,
post.
nobody will
and-
disagree that this
Yeah.
red pen is amazing.
Yeah.
And somebody will be like, actually, my aunt's uncle's brother's sister had a red pen like that and they poked their eye out. And so I don't know who you think you are, Terri-Ann.
Yeah. That's crazy.
All right. So I want to ask you some quick fire questions as we sort of wrap up. And so we'll just kind of go from there. So
Okay.
coffee or tea?
Neither.
What is your beverage? What are you
Water.
drinking?
Water.
Just water. Okay. I mean, that's fair.
I mean, at night it might be beer or wine, but
okay. But no
Yeah.
coffee or tea.
no, never.
I'm shocked. Okay. Morning or night person?
Morning.
All right. One
you-
word that your wife would use to describe you.
Caring.
Awesome. That's a great word. Is there a book that you would recommend to the world? That's always a difficult one because people can almost never remember books, I find, but I still ask this question.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't read a lot. There's that one business book, Who Moved My Cheese? Did you see that one?
Ooh, yep. That's
read-
Robin something.
Yeah.
Look at us. We got great memories, folks.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a great one.
I think it's Robin. Anyway. If I'm wrong, just don't hold me accountable, folks. And what is something you do on a regular basis to bring happiness to your life?
I think now the kids are older, it gives Sue and I a chance to spend more time together. So a simple walk down the boardwalk with our dog or dogs. Two of them can't really walk as much, so they like to be carried. So a lot of times we'll leave them behind and take the one that loves to run and walk. So Yeah.
That's awesome. Listen, James, it's been amazing getting to know you a little bit more, having this conversation. I know folks are going to get a lot from it. I'll make sure to share your links below. Any parting thoughts?
No, I'm just grateful for you and the work that you're doing. I feel honored to have met you in Moncton and have stayed connected with you. I respect a lot of what you're doing. And so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too.
This has been Faces of Atlantic with host Terri-Ann Richards, real conversations with the people shaping Atlantic Canada. If you like this episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who'd love these stories too.